I was never the loud one in class. You know the type. The kid who sat near the back, didn't talk much, never raised his hand unless absolutely necessary. That was me. Not because I was scared or shy. I just preferred peace over noise. But high school isn't kind to quiet people, especially when someone like Jake exists. Jake was the complete opposite of me. Loud, confident, charming to teachers, and a total nightmare to anyone who didn't worship him. He played football, had 100 friends, and somehow always knew how to turn every room in his favor. People laughed at his jokes, even when they were cruel. Especially when they were cruel. And I was his favorite target. It started small. A shove in the hallway. A fake smile followed by an insult about my clothes. Snide comments under his breath when the teacher was speaking. The kind of bullying that wasn't loud enough to get him in trouble, but just enough to chip away at me. At first, I tried to ignore it. Everyone says bullies feed off reactions, right? So I kept my head down, did my work, and focused on my future. I knew I wanted to go to college, far away from this place, far away from him. But the problem with ignoring someone like Jake is that it makes them angry. When he realized I wasn't giving him the reaction he wanted, he pushed harder. Once, he found my sketchbook, something I never showed anyone, and passed it around during lunch. Pages I had poured my soul into were laughed at like they were jokes. That day, I went home and didn't speak a word for hours. I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone could be so hateful for no reason. But I never retaliated. Not then. Because while Jake was busy tearing people down for attention, I was watching. I was learning. I was planning. I didn't know how or when, but I knew one thing with complete clarity. One day he'd regret everything. Time passed, but nothing changed. Jake's bullying only got more creative. He had this way of turning people against you without ever being direct. He'd whisper lies to classmates about me, that I was weird, or obsessed with some girl in class, or that I cheated on tests. He'd mess with my locker, hide my books, and once even submitted a fake complaint to the principal claiming I threatened him. Of course, there was no proof, and the principal knew me well enough not to believe it. But Jake always played it smart. He made it seem like it was all just jokes. You know the type. Relax, man. It's just a prank. Eventually, even teachers started to believe I was just too sensitive. I began eating lunch alone. The one friend I had slowly distanced himself, probably afraid Jake would turn on him next. I remember one moment clearly, the exact moment everything changed for me. It was during our junior year. We had this huge group project worth a good chunk of our final grade. I was paired with Jake and 2 others. I did most of the work, of course. Stayed up nights writing, designing, organizing everything so we'd all get a good grade. But when we submitted the project, I discovered something shocking. Jake had removed my name from the final presentation file. Only his name and the 2 others were there. I found out when the teacher handed the project back with glowing praise, but only gave credit to them. I stood there, stunned, heart pounding, unable to even speak. I tried to explain, but Jake interrupted with a fake smile lie. He didn't really do anything, sir. We had to finish everything last minute. And the worst part? The other 2 didn't defend me. They looked down, ashamed, but said nothing. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at my reflection in the dark window. I wasn't angry. Not like you'd think. I was cold. This wasn't going to stop on its own. I realized something important. Jake wasn't just a bully. He was a fraud. He had a fake image built on lies, manipulation, and charisma. And everyone just let it slide because he was popular. But I wasn't going to let it slide anymore. That was the moment I decided. I'm going to destroy him, not with fists or yelling, but with truth. By senior year, Jake had everyone fooled. He was the golden boy, class president, team captain, and the face of every school brochure. He walked through the halls like he owned the place, throwing smiles like weapons. And behind those smiles? So many lies. But I knew the truth. I knew he had plagiarized essays in English class. I had seen him copy text from the internet, then paste it into his Google Docs and just change a few words. The teacher never noticed because Jake always had an excuse. He was too busy with sports, or dealing with personal stuff. He had this charm that made teachers forgive everything. I also knew about his fake volunteering hours. He claimed to have volunteered at a local shelter every weekend, but I worked there once a month. I never saw him, not once. And the biggest one? He was planning to apply to one of the top universities in the country, the same one I had dreamed of for years. It was the only school I truly wanted. He talked about it constantly, bragging about how his connections and resume guaranteed admission. That's when I started planning. Slowly, quietly, I began gathering evidence, not obvious stuff that would get traced back to me, but little things. I took screenshots of his plagiarized essays, comparing them with the original sources. I asked the shelter's coordinator to sign a form confirming his name wasn't on their volunteer list. I dug through our old emails, class files, and project logs to show how I had done the group project he claimed as his own. And then came the final step, something he never saw coming. I created an anonymous email account. No name, no trace. I sent a well-organized packet of evidence to the university's admissions office. In the email I wrote, "This student has submitted fraudulent information as part of his application. Attached are documents and links that show academic dishonesty, misrepresented volunteer work, and unethical behavior. I believe this goes against the values your institution stands for." I attached everything, side-by-side plagiarism comparisons, the signed form from the shelter, and screenshots showing his dishonesty. Then I hit send. And I waited. Not with anger. Not with fear. But with the calm of someone who knows they've already won. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Jake was still walking the halls like a king, talking loudly about how excited he was for decision day. He even joked to a teacher, "I'll probably get in early. They love me." But then came the morning everything changed. It was a Thursday. Jake walked into school looking different. Quiet. No swagger in his step. His usual group of friends surrounded him, but he wasn't talking. He just kept checking his phone. Over and over. I knew. Later that day, in the hallway near the main office, I overheard him whispering, not shouting like usual, but panicked, almost desperate. "No, I swear I didn't plagiarize anything. What do you mean they flagged my application? I don't understand. How can they say I lied?" I passed him without looking. But inside, I felt something shift, not joy, not pride, just relief. A long, deep exhale I had waited years to take. By the end of the day, the rumor mill had exploded. Word got around fast. Jake's dream college had rejected him. Not waitlisted. Not deferred. Rejected outright. Someone from the office accidentally mentioned something about academic misconduct. Of course, Jake tried to spin it. He told everyone that the college had made a mistake, that it was some kind of glitch, that he was appealing. But within a week, it got worse. The school administration got involved. Turns out, the university had sent over part of the investigation to our school, highlighting how one of their students had falsely reported volunteer hours and had a pattern of plagiarism. That triggered a storm. Jake was called into multiple meetings. His parents came in. His position as student council president was suspended. He lost his scholarship eligibility. Teachers looked at him differently, some even outright disappointed. And the best part? He had no idea who exposed him. Not a clue. He suspected a few people, maybe even blamed the classmates from that group project. But me? I was just the quiet kid in the back of the room, like always. Typing notes. Minding my business. Except this time, justice was on my side. After the dust settled, Jake faded into the background. He still came to school, but the energy around him was different. No more loud entrances. No more arrogant jokes. Most people kept their distance. A few loyal friends stuck by him, but even they seemed unsure, like they finally saw him for who he really was. He didn't speak to me again. Not a word. And honestly, I didn't need him to. I never wanted an apology. I didn't need him to say he was wrong. All I wanted was for the truth to finally matter. For once, I wanted someone like me, quiet, overlooked, underestimated, to win. And I did. I got into the same university he had applied to. Not because I cheated or lied, but because I earned it. Through hard work. Through integrity. Through patience. Jake taught me a valuable lesson. Not just about cruelty, but about power. The kind of power that doesn't come from popularity or fear, but from knowledge. From being observant. From playing the long game. He thought he was untouchable. But in the end he destroyed himself. I just handed him the mirror. Now, I don't look back with hate. Honestly, I feel nothing for him. What he did to me shaped me, sure. But it didn't define me. What I did in return. That was my choice. My story. And now it's yours too. Thanks for listening. What would you have done in my shoes? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more real stories with unexpected endings.